Thank you very much and welcome. Yes, I'm Balázs, but more importantly, we've got some panelists here at the table, and I begin with Ave Tölt from Music Estonia director, Benjamin Demlemester from uh, um, what's the new name of CNM? Okay. I mean, the French Music Export Office has been the best practice in the industry so far that I still remember its old name, always. Sorry about that. Yeah. And Ivan Petrovic, you all know him, our host, Exit Foundation director, and Martin Koff, who I hope you had some time to have a lunch before you were involved in the previous, also very long panel. Advisor to the Prime Minister of Serbia. And basically we are here at this panel to discuss why there isn't a single music export office in the Balkans on the one hand, and why those who have it are happy about it, are happy about having it. But first, maybe let's start with Ivan, because there has been efforts to launch a Serbian music export office now for quite a while, and I'm really interested in where it stands, when it will be launched finally.
Maybe this question is better for Martin because he's in the Prime Minister office, but I will answer anyhow.
Thank you.
Basically, we as Exit, we are advocating for several years for establishment of the Music Export Office. As you said, in no any Balkan country didn't found the office yet. So we were thinking how can we maybe speed up the process. And the funny part was that ex-Yugoslavia had something which was similar to export office. I think it's called the Yugo Agent or something like that. When Yugoslavia was the part of the non-alignment movement, they had a lot of this exchange, cultural exchange with all over. And then we had, of course, we had wars, we had all this tragedy, which happened in the 90s, and of course economical collapse of the countries, and that's how all these budgets for the culture were cut and never established again. Now I think when we are re-established and rebuilding from that crisis, that is right time to create that kind of infrastructure together with the state. And we were studying a lot of these models, how this stuff can function. On Exit before Corona, we had Ruud Berends on one panel from Eurosonic. You probably all know or heard about him. He's the guy basically behind Eurosonic as one of the biggest music conference in Europe and further. And he basically gave us short, main points. One of them was first, it has to be run by the industry. It has to be, let's say, community thing, and the main guide should come from the music industry and should be very well known in the scene. That's one thing. The second thing, what he suggested is that we can start from the scratch and build like an office, which will be like kind of independent, funded by the government. Or he said you have the big platform, the Exit, so use the big platform. That's better than to build it from the scratch. And actually, with this WOMBA thing, we are on that track because we have these all resources and contacts worldwide, and reputation and everything. And now we want to do something, and we have, thanks to the MOST and Creative Europe, the funds for this first year to start it. And this basically WOMBA platform powered by MOST could be something similar. Of course, for the beginning, it's only world music and similar genres, but at the future it could be expanded. And that's where we now. We are waiting for the new government to be formed and to see who will be the responsible persons, to talk with them can government to join us, because as we saw it in the first genial keynotes of the band Mendes at the beginning, he just wrote us like guidelines, first step, political will, then others. So we have to work on the first step, and I think we will make it, with them or without them, better with them. But the only thing that we now need for the next year is basically funding for all this and to expand it. We already have the festival, we have the showcase, we can do that. It's not a huge amount for this kind of stuff. And basically also we traveled a lot of this showcase conference and we see how it goes. I was last December at Reunion Island, something called IOMA. Where is Leila? Is she here now? So it's Indian Ocean Music Market. It's similar like this. So that's how I saw Maya Kamati, which was on stage last night. She was phenomenal, and she introduced Reunion to Serbia and Europe, because we have a global audience, as you know. And if I was not there, I was not aware that she exists and the island is existing, basically. So thanks to us, Balkans is much closer to the music centers than the Reunion. So we will continue developing this platform with all our friends and partners from all over. And I think we are on the good track to make something significant. And this is one of the, let's say, most important areas of exit social activism, development of the sector of the creative industries. That's why we had this previous panel, because we really believe that for the Serbia and the Balkans, the creativity is our main thing, and we have to put more emphasis on it in the cultural sense, economical, tourism sense, in every sense. That should be basically, if I'm in charge, I would put that as a main development power of the country, with all these, let's say, industries which are gravitating to them. And basically, we will try our best, do our best with all partners to continue to build this export platform, first for this genre and then for all others.
Thank you, Ivan. And as Ivan said, I should have started with you, Martin, but I'm a foreigner. I'm allowed not to be aware of the protocol. As representative of the government here, what's the main motivation of the government with an export office? Because in some cases it's kind of a economic motivation, like an export investment with a huge multiplicator effect, as music does, or it's more political, cultural, diplomacy, national pride?
It's all of those things. We began looking at the concept of an export office for exactly those reasons. The idea that a coordinated, well-managed organization of the sector would allow us to both boost economic returns for the people participating in the industry, and also then grow the social, the public diplomacy elements of, presenting Serbia in a completely new way. The challenge that I've seen time and time again in developing countries is that in a low-income environment, there is an unwillingness for people to put their differences aside and come together into a single body. And I think that's the first challenge that Serbia needs to deal with now going forward, is to, unite and understand that they may not necessarily agree with everyone sitting around the table all the time, but the benefits of them being around that table. I mean, from a government perspective, it's really difficult to talk to individual musicians. I mean, you automatically get drawn into conversations about legitimacy and why did you choose that one to send? Whereas if you're speaking to an industry, a coordinated industry, so there's genuine interest in us having that. We went down the route of because we had some funding ourselves to investigate this. And we ran into this brick wall of the industry being reluctant to cooperate because they don't see the bigger picture, because there is not quite so much money on the table. Then in another hat that I have of doing some research for the RCC, the understanding that potentially we could do this as a region, which would perhaps remove some of the the more insular thinking. I was very interested to see that, how that might play out, and I'm quite following that process carefully. But we've used music. We just did the Dubai World Expo, and we ran, I can't remember, it was 50 odd music performances demonstrating Serbia's performance as an integral part of our program of presenting what modern Serbia had to offer. So it's very important to us for both economics and social.
It sounds to me that, like what Ivan said, as the first step is the political will, that the political will is there or almost there already too.
Well, the political will is always punctured when the industry fights amongst itself, because the politicians are looking to try, they genuinely are looking for solutions. But if you have solutions coming from 15 different sources and everyone fighting, then the politicians are more likely to go, let's not get involved. They can just sort it out. Because they're dealing with industries that do have their shit together and do come and speak with a unified voice. So the political will is there, but only to a limit. And the limit really is how well we organize, from the private sector perspective, how well we coordinate ourselves to start speaking more collectively.
Usually to create that kind of unity or that kind of coordinated will and strategy, that's pretty tricky at the beginning, because music is a competitive field as well. Genres are competing with each other, individual artists are competing with each other, venues, whatever. The Music Estonia, was launched 8 years ago, I think, and that's one of the quickest success stories that I know among music export offices. How have you fought these fights at the beginning to get the music sector united?
Yeah,
behind the idea?
Yeah, sorry. We had the same problems and fighting a bit, but and with the genres actually, of course, because the classical is a bit slightly doing different way of export and etc. So we tried to. We had also many attempts to create an export office, and actually our platform. I really like that Exit Foundation can be also a platform, because Tallinn Music Week was there before us, 14 years before. 14 years Tallinn Music Week has been created already. So slightly before us, there was a Tallinn Music Week who tried to run these missions and collaborations on an EU level. And then the industry somehow, at some point, the same people of Tallinn Music Week and some of the key players of the industry, they felt like, okay, let's come together and we need this organized structure. So I think really important keywords already have been passing this conversation here. So yeah, we had many attempts to create, we wanted everybody on the table and around the table. This didn't work out. Then we basically, but there was an urge of the companies themselves, like pop rock, indie, like all of those companies or artists supported such organized structure, because they saw the need the most. So yeah, 8 years ago, Music Estonia was launched, and then obviously there was a bit of ministry support, a slight amount of for the start, and then we gained already. We have this Enterprise Estonia, who is run on EU money, and then we wrote a project. They wrote a project then and received also from Enterprise Estonia some funding. So it's it's founded by music companies. It's an NGO. So, and the board consists of music companies. We have 7 members in the board. It changes every 2 years. So basically members, and now we have 100 stakeholders who are owning the export office basically. And then Ministry supports us, Enterprise Estonia, and different Creative Europe funds. And that's how we just try to be stable and just to grow. And we have made a significant growth in those, during those 8 years. So now it's growing. We are 5 people running that export office, for example. We have international projects, we have development programs, we have marketing, and we have a branch, Live Music Estonia, because some countries have Music music export office, but but this music export office is created usually like like collective societies usually. For example, if you have those structures already, they feel the need as well, and they create the music export office. But in our case, companies, and then so we are owned by companies. I don't remember what I wanted to say anymore about this structure. So yeah.
But I think that sorry.
That was then.
I think that I was involved in the formation of the Serbia Film Commission, which is now, I think, 13 years old. And the same kind of process was followed there, which is why I've followed this process in the music industry so closely, because it really was a case of then, once you'd had the decision to make this organization, finessing how the structure would represent effectively everyone who needed to be there. And then it was a case of putting together, sourcing funds from different people, a membership fee to participate. And it worked exactly like that. And I've never had any understanding of why we couldn't make it work in Serbia, except this difficulty of bringing people around the table.
I remembered what I wanted to say. Like, for example, we have this exception as an export office as well. We have the Live Music Estonia branch. That I wanted to say is that because, many export offices are not membership-based, and we are, but live music organizations usually are membership-based. But we have Live Music Estonia, which unites the concert organizers, venues, and etc. So because our members are labels, managers, self-managed artists, and etc. So we just unite all of the industry in that sense. Then and the Live Music Estonia branch was created only 3 years ago. So this was also a sign of development.
Benjamin, as I said, probably the French is that was the first music export office, right, in Europe. And also before the music export offices, and there are some still in the Balkans, there was this notion, the music information centers. Basically, I think in every country in Europe there was one. Still, I think there is some left in the Balkans as well. I know there is one in Slovenia, but maybe some other countries too. So let's try and list all kinds of activities that a music export office can do. I don't know, from going to trade fairs to support individual artists when they are on travel or whatever.
Yeah, sure. Just before answering that, just a remark about what you said before. First of all, the funny thing is that what I say now is not what used to be before. So I could just go out to the swimming pool now, because we had one of the best and flexible organizations before, which was an association with, around the table, the music industry, funded both half, the state, the government, Ministry of Culture, Ministry of Europe and Foreign Affairs, and the music sector. It is not the case anymore. And this is because of COVID. The situation and the willing of the government was to create CNM, Centre National de la Musique, a National Center for Music, because there was this huge and urgent moment needed to gather the whole industry, not only for export, but also for saving the country, saving the festivals, even the biggest, saving the venues. So this is why today, when I talk now, it's all funded by the Ministry of Culture. But it's because of the COVID situation. We hope, and I hope personally, that the music sector will come back, because we need their feet on the ground policies, money, and everything else they represent. But in 1993, when the Bureau Export was created, it was not a government willing. It was a willing from, so it's step by step. It was a willing of the associations of the live, the music, the recording industry, the SACEM, author rights. They all together were fed up with fighting with each other. And the best moment, the best place where people are agreeing, where they fight within each other, is export. So all the other organizations within France were very happy because at least at Le Bureau Export, there was no more fight. Because they need to export their projects, and in order to be export ready, you need to be prepared. And being prepared is not only about composing, it's about being ready also with the recording, with the performance, with everything else. You cannot do that only from your side. And the music industry is so complicated in that sense that it's first the association representing. This is why in the order of creating a proper export office, you need who is playing the game, who is big in the game around the table. But the government helped just adjusting and in the end, the government is still there, but it's really, in the board, the government is still there, but we really need the industry. The other aspect I would like to also emphasize is that in order to have a good, as you said in the panel before, with all the guests and speakers that was there is the willing to export, but the willing to export is not necessarily the willing to, there are so many aspects. It's the cultural aspects also, of course. But given its past, France, everything that is creating musically in France is almost, if not export ready, almost made for export. Because even for French chanson, it can go to Francophone countries. If it's not for that, what you hear on the radio is #1 in France, is #1 on the hit abroad. Aya Nakamura, David Guetta, all these artists, Daft Punk, #1 on the radio, good numbers abroad. In some countries, what is #1 on the radio is not at all export ready. So how do you manage to gather the industry if the major ones and the major company produce artists that are really totally just located for their own country and nobody will listen to them abroad? That's a tricky question. Also in the matter of finance. But about to answer,
let's skip my question now because I mean you opened the whole new territory and then let's take
this is what I'm here for.
Yeah, we'll return to what I asked later. But on the whole funding structure that you mentioned, that I mean COVID created a special situation because I mean even the Nordic countries returned to governmental funding in these years, but traditionally. There are countries where it's partly industry, partly government funded, the Music Export Office, so basically the Nordic countries, France, and a few more were there, and the rest were, well, dominantly government funded, probably. But this has changed during COVID. What do you find good and what do you find bad about purely governmental funding and the purely industry funding?
You see, I need to think. Now, the good aspect to me, first of all, is that it prepares what we couldn't do good at the Bureau Export. Being helping the artist at what is export at the first step. Because at those times, I couldn't say. I just said, we were lucky in France because we had several organizations doing several things. In some country, you have to learn what is a label or what is a label contract as well as what is a Eurosonic or exit. So you need a previous knowledge, preliminary knowledge before knocking at the export office door. And in that sense, the good thing about CNM is that we have everything inside, because it's the gathering of 5 previous organizations, including the resource. So in that sense, this is really good, because the door is open. An artist, a composer, a label, a tour agent, a publisher, a manager, everyone can come over, they have an answer, and not only answers, answer is just 42. No, the answers are not here, it's it's being with the project management, and it's a whole path all year long. So in that sense, that's good. The difficulty is that sometimes with a public organization, you have to be export ready yourself. And in that sense, sometimes it's not that easy. It requires flexibility. It requires knowledge, what you can do in English, in other languages, payment, facilities, administration, organization, events, a showcase festival. And you told me about, but I can answer your question, what I am doing. If I may, just telling jokes, I'm the Tinder of the export office. I can say, your project could match perfectly this company, and you don't know yet. And this public organization cannot do. They could say, oh, your music sounds like Stromae. Okay, but that's all. They couldn't, we can match, it's not just by myself. I and the colleagues, we can match companies together. Major ones as well as independent ones. And this knowledge is difficult to acquire. This is why you need the industry around, because then you match accordingly the level of career, possibly the genre, but also the way of working and developing. And sometimes artistic collaboration comes also with professional collaborations. So in that sense, I hope I answered the question. One last thing is that up until now, we're sharing the Association of European Export Offices called IMI, and together with AVE also, of course. And this is important for the data and the knowledge, because among the issues we talked this morning about export music industry is the monitoring the sector. So the difficulty is that when you cannot monitor the sector, you have a barrier, because first, when you have a, I wouldn't say nice, but willing government, you will have to show the weight of the industry, how much, what is the value. If you cannot show that, if you have a willing government, it's okay. But even when it's difficult, you have to show that it has a huge value. And so the gathering of the export offices is also to centralize these data and values and to get more funding with the European Union.
I want to return to the European export initiative, because not having an export office for a country in this sense, it's kind of a double loss. First you lose as not having an export structure yourself, but then also you are missing from the European scene and you can't take advantage of the European efforts.
Because I wanted to add, like, for example, the last meeting what we had with IMI, with the European network, we talked about those structures and those like differences, and you can have very small export office, 1, 2 people, you can have 5, you can have like whatever, 20, 200. We have so many different structures, but this unites us. We can talk about like what strategies, how we run something. We can have this like exactly this data and research, because at Tallinn Music Week also we had a panel of export offices about like introducing how we can help the industry and like about like different sizes and like activities, but then we just also reached the conclusion what is like this and why also these networks are very important, like because smaller and newer export offices can't reach that level, having all of those departments and like research and data, and we are also like trying to do many research projects by ourselves or just initiate and then give it away, and like just to we have the like obviously like after the or during those several crises right now, we have to have this data ready, and we're working on this. But IMI is a fantastic network. If you have a new export office and you enter IMI as well, you gain resources from there as well.
And also you gain through that you can get access to other markets, extra European markets.
Exactly.
With the shared trade missions and stuff.
Yeah, and exactly the shared trade missions. Now they have a DEMEC project, which is like developing the European market. They have the research part there. They have like 1 international mission per year, 2 European missions per year. This is a 3-year-long EU project. So, for example, they are gaining also EU resources right now. So this is a like huge possibility for us to be more aware of those markets, because crisis has shown that the role of the export office has also like changed. We have to be very aware of different regional markets, what is like very different, like the Central Europe, Central Eastern Europe. We have to have more knowledge on different markets now to do more targeted missions and targeted export, let's say.
I guess especially markets that are themselves kind of the size of Europe, like I don't know, India, China, Mexico,
yeah, those
US.
international markets, but you work more
May-
with those.
can I ask a question about that? So when you're dealing with your stakeholders and you're trying to make those kind of connections, are you primarily looking at business-to-business connections? How far down are you drilling to individual artists? And I mean, start with that.
Yes, it's mainly B2B. Of course, there is a bit of B2C, and I will not answer that way, but we have a playlist system to promote. But above all, for B2C and public and audience, we have good partners for that already are doing this. It's Institut Français. Those who are already working in each country, helping, financing, or programming artists, this is already a reach to the audiences. So what we do next to that is connecting the companies, but we don't do the deals. What we do is, first of all, a good matching, and then second, investing on the good environment to meet. This is why we often participate in a lot of professional events, not to buy slots so that the music is proposed. We don't need that, fortunately, from our side, but we would help on organizing networking sessions, and those networking sessions are between activities, live with live, records with records, publishing with publishing.
I would also like, if I may, to ask two questions for you both, basically, because I think the first question of the Balash for you was not answered, and for the audience it is important if you can say briefly, in simple way, what kind of services are you offering, range of services to the artists, to the professionals? If you can say it like just that people get a picture what can be done, because we are like all the time in this kind of, but I'm not sure that the audience is into it. And what do you basically advise of these services maybe to start from? Because I'm sure that like that could be budget like this for maybe 2 services, or it could be like 10. So my question, but what are you offering and what are the priorities could be for the beginning?
Okay, so let's be very practical. We are 7 colleagues with the knowledge of expertise with countries. So the artists on the entourage call us and say, Benjamin, Lison, Ben, Daniel, please, I have a concert opportunity in Germany. Can I tour the country? Do you have other contacts? First. Second, a label comes over. I have a tour in Germany. Can I have some money? I don't have enough, so we have a budget for that. Third, publishing. Do you know some music supervisors I could contact, because I have a success with my tours and I meet some agents, but I need more money also. Maybe this track could be really interesting for music and advertisement. Third, major companies. We really want to work Africa. Do you have market studies about Morocco, Algeria, etc.? So depending on is it concrete enough? So depending on the level of your requests, we have different departments for that. But when I say that, it's really showing off. Obviously, I don't know all that. So I rely on the resources of the other when we don't know. Of course, in Europe, and especially Western Europe, but also Central Europe, we have this knowledge we share together. For other countries, we can pay together, finance together for common market studies when it costs a lot of money, or so we can collaborate with Canada. Because it's a Francophone country, we have an history together. So we would say, let's say for Maghreb region, working on market studies over there. So that's an example. But what I wanted to say as an answer also is that we can reach the major company, because export doesn't mean my music is good, I will be big in Japan. Exporting requires expertise, investment, and it's a know-how. And once you have a track or something that is really successful, it's only the beginning. You need to have a business plan for 3 or 4 years to know until where will I go? What is my limit? Will I go to USA? No. Will I stay in Europe, etc.? And this is a crucial question for the independent, but also for the major, for everyone.
Yeah, so basically like advising and advising on very different levels. Also those requests reach us all the time as well. But in our case, yeah, very simple structure. We just we have to share knowledge and info, contacts and networks. So we share those knowledge in very different levels. Info, contacts, networks. But our strategical structure is very simple. Those are like developing programs. So we just want to make sure that our industry knowledge is has a very good level. So then international knowledge and missions, and then the voice in our for our cultural sector, what we can do, that the music data is there, the decisions are knowledge-based, what is the strategy for next 10 years. So we're basically advisors on that matter as well. So research, advising on policy level, then international missions, inviting delegations in here. For example, we cooperate also then with Tallinn Music Week, and out of those requests, we gain the knowledge. Okay, what kind of a B2B, what kind of a contacts they want to reach here to do business. So then we cooperate. Ideal way to cooperate at our platform, Tallinn Music Week. We invite those delegates in. Then we take our delegations out. We have we can say our prior 5 events, but then through EU projects we gain, and we can invite more delegates into different festivals because our resources are limited. So we have to say, okay, we are present in those festivals because our Ministry of Culture sees the need, for example, to be present at Jazz Ahead, WOMEX, and Classical Next as well. We're always there present. We try to be present every time Reeperbahn and Eurosonic as well. But now, small size events and festivals and showcase events when you can reach really the business contacts really easily, those are also gaining more and more attention and very important to us. But through EU projects and turning attention to those events, we can put our delegation in there and advising to go in those markets as well. And inside the development programs, what I mentioned first, we have all over the strategy, we can say we have very beginners, we have emerged already professionals. And when I say professional, I mean also artists, self-managed artists or artists who needs advice, managers, labels. We can divide the strategy. We have very beginners, we have emerged, we have professionals, and they need different programs and different resources. For example, the professionals who need to make investments already, who have all this information and contact or networks, we can support giving them some kind of funds or just helping to reach them some investments. When emerging, we can take the delegations outside. So we have different, and for the very beginners, we can say the educational level is very important. For example, where they can learn about music business in Estonia, for example. Then we created with our music school 1-year learning program. Could they have internship programs, for example? So we have internship programs. We have the music business, the program what we created, but the school runs it now. So very different activities that you can create for the very beginners, for the emerging, for the very leveled already professionals, and that's why it's this music office structure very important to have this overview of everything and then turn it to politics to give a voice to this thing.
So it's like a massive information brokerage.
Yes.
Really. And so how do you, apart from years of experience in the industry, I mean, how would Serbia upskill quickly enough to be able to make something like this work here? Where would we start? What would be the number one thing that you say that we should start with, information-wise, that would make this work? Apart from who is in the industry and at what level?
Yeah, information. Yeah, who is in the industry? The mapping part, obviously, and then I would just say, gather some kind of a key players and just make this platform happen. Just with the key players, give some kind of a support, and they can run this further.
But I'm worried about the information. You're obviously dealing with some very sort of detailed, in order to meet this kind of buyer, you need to go to this kind of platform or this kind of event. Is that stuff that you learn pretty quickly when you're running an office like this, just because you have to?
Yeah, because I haven't been there a long time. I have been there almost 2 years, and before that I worked in Jazz Estonia, dealing with more regional development of jazz, and before that in other cultures, activities, with other cultural activities. So yeah, I would say because of those industry key players, you can gather the information and make it work quite quickly in that sense, but yeah.
Yeah, I confirm it can be quick. And the information is there and made to share. We already can share things in a collaborative aspect. Yeah.
Yes.
And being member of a community is already there. We give each other contacts, we give each other advice. And also, I was not that 100% positive about the public organization change, but what I can say also is that maybe export is an old-fashioned word. Because now that we export, not anymore le bureau export, we're Centre National de la Musique, and it means I can do better import. Because if you want to provide information, you need also to provide information on how the people can get into your country with concrete contacts, events, etc. And that was not made so well before in France. First of all, because it's a very closed market from abroad, and also because it's a self-sufficient market. So that didn't make the French people export ready the first. Those who are really the first are those where the market is not self-sufficient. We told about the Réunion Island for Maya Kamati. I suppose that in this place with the venues there, they need to export. They need to get out of the island because you cannot really tour the whole year long, and not only touring, by the way. And the effect, which is not the subject now, but you know by heart, especially with the decades ago, is the lack of talents going elsewhere, being signed in Germany, being signed in other countries, and that's the case with France. France has a lot of artists and diversity, but because some countries without an export office or without a structure, better off signed by the French company. But yeah, and also the credibility of the platform. I think Exit is way export ready. I mean, it's very important that the platform represents the country for the artist and the structure. They believe in it, they trust it, and they know they can reach, and the government should be proud of it. And in that case, it could go really quickly. And you're most welcome to come over to France or to have more resources, of course.
So even is Exit ready kind of to be to play the role that Ava mentioned about Tallinn Music Week in Estonia, so be kind of the platform for Serbia to the outside world?
Basically, Exit, as you probably know, is working on a lot of different developments, new festivals and projects and things like that. So the way how we do it is, or we are trying to do it, is to we are putting a lot of these ideas, let's say, in the idea market, and then try to see is the response positive from it, is it time for it, because for many ideas that we did, it was, for some of them it's too early, and then like you need to wait like 4 or 5 years in order to make it happen. For some of them it could happen first year, so basically you need also divine help in a lot of these endeavors. But I see clearly that we have potential and resources to pull something in this sense if we put focus on it. That's the most important thing for us, is focus, like to put energy of whole team going in that direction. But we cannot do it alone. That's one thing. As Martin said, the whole scene, probably the whole art scene, is fragmented, let's say that way, ego-driven, let's say that way also, and then it could be hard to, you know, align all these spirits. But as also Martin said at the beginning, it's a matter of mindset. And in, let's say, low-income countries or cultures, there is this scarcity moment that you feel like if there is for him, there is not for me, or if there is for you, there is not for him. So in that scarcity mindset, we are all competing with each other. So
We spoke a lot about growing the pie rather than sharing the pie.
Yes, so we should go to the abundance model where there is every, food for everybody on the table. That's why we are starting, this is not a Serbian, World Music Serbia, but we started World Music Balkans because we want to include all the region. There is enough space for everybody. We are not competing with each other. And I really love what Ben said at the beginning, that the world music as a is a community, it's a cooperative structure, it's not competing structure. There are other examples in other genres where basically it's, let's say, brutal capitalism competition. But I can say from the festival side that the festivals in Europe, and we are in contact with all major and medium and some small festivals, that there is this cooperative culture, that we are basically support each other. We are not working against each other. We are in some sort of contact with our friends from Siget, which is, let's say, a neighboring country, and others. So we are sharing experiences, the artists, we are visiting each other. So there is really this beautiful exchange. I don't know is any other industry similar, because I don't know are Pepsi or Coca-Cola in close contact, for example, as we are. But that's the most beautiful part about music. It's about community. And but let's back to the question. The main task is now how to get to this abundance mindset, that we can all work together, that we are not competing, that there is a role and place for everybody. And that's if you opportunity for everybody, and if you manage to do that, then I think magic can happen.
And basically, you have already pretty strong live scene, like the live scene cooperation. What I have seen or heard during those days, because with live you cooperate more, like and you basically you have live music Serbia already. I can see like that. Yeah.
Okay, let's see what you've already got for an export office. So you've got a very well connected international platform, Exit. You've got already internationally known artists, at least a handful, very well known. I mean, on whom you can build kind of an export brand. You've got actually just happening EU programs that are basically targeting the same thing, so it's already kind of prepared for you. Both Most and Hemi are kind of trying to prepare artists to export readiness, also training managers, people who can take advantage of these opportunities. What else do you think you need to launch an export office, or is this really the best time, as it seems?
No, first, I think we need that, let's say, some sort of agreement of the major stakeholders, let's say, in order to do that. And also, I think there should be some sort of a consensus at the beginning on which genres should we put a focus on, because we are a small country. We cannot cover like 10, and from my studies, I see that the most potentials are basically those. The main problem for not English-speaking countries is that language barrier. Basically, it's huge obstacle. So there are, of course, exemptions, but in generally speaking, it's quite difficult. From European perspective, if you not understand the messages and what's the attitude of the artist. So we're thinking like to focus on two types. One is electronic music, where basically there is no language barrier because there are very few words in most of cases. And of course, world music, which Balkan has something to offer, which is authentic, which is beautiful. And in this first group, we already have internationalization of a lot of our DJs and artists and producers are organically going around the world without any support. We kind of, that's also one of the things that we are not promoting, but Exit basically did a lot of this export work spontaneously. First we are organizing, we were organizing 9 festivals in 7 countries outside of Serbia. So a lot of domestic talents were playing mostly in the neighboring country, or then we have like this connection with the other organizers and festivals like Siget, like every other. So we're exchanging some talents.
But I think part of our problem has been that we've not been able to capitalize on that, right? I mean, we haven't had an organization behind it to take the artists that we've taken out and go, okay, and now the next step for you. Now you've played in Croatia or wherever.
Maybe the next step to me is education. This is what you said, Ave. Because the talent, all the talent there are people working with the artist or the artist, hand in hand with the platform. My assumption is that if you don't have yourself in the platform, exit platform, the training, like real training, industry training or business, at least maybe some, not winners, but selected changing people or companies or even small companies or just people, and give them mentoring, sharing what are the good practices with other countries. You need to have a pool of changing over always, a pool of people that represent the quality of the development, not necessarily only the artists themselves. And then with those 2 feet, you can have a relatively efficient export, I think.
Yeah, I think what the difference is between individual success stories and kind of an export office based success story is that without a structure behind individual success stories, never make up to one big story, and the multiplying effect doesn't come into practice.
Yeah.
So it doesn't happen.
Because we measure the success, obviously one indicator is the turnover of exports, and this is very hard to measure. We are still trying to find a model for this as well. But yeah, if the whole export is growing, and like we can measure that and see how many players are there, what is the level of the players, is the companies, what is the turnover of the companies, how big they are they bigger or smaller? Because we have lots of one-man companies as well, and like the scenery is just huge, like it's fast developing but still developing phase.
And it's also quite difficult if you are responsible for setting up meetings, that you are then how you are measured on your performance, because you can set up 100 meetings, but if only one of them converts to a deal, which you've had no say in, this was always one of the problems that you have with these creative industries organizations, is that the measurement of your success is quite
and it
difficult.
Takes time,
yes.
and it takes time, and how you build the strategy. And now we have also we have indicators for those 3 pillars that I mentioned: the developing and internationalization, and like how many experts we bring. We always gather this data, but it takes time. We invite one delegate, we never know when the impact might come. Yes. So in the creative industries, the turnover can be huge, but it takes time.
I also had some dilemma about all this, so maybe you can help me out. Because let's say, who is doing the priority? What kind of music would be like priority for the country? Because what I mean, Ruud Berens from the Eurosonic, he sent me one data that I think 4 years ago. The Dutch export, if you're looking from the economic side, they counted it all like fees. It was like 300 million euros. All combined artists are bringing to the country, and from their research, the 70% of that income is electronic music, and from that 70%, half of the income is made by 2 DJs. So. What is my question? What is my thinking? So you have, of course, as you said, economic benefit. Then you have cultural benefit. Then you have social benefit. And from what I'm feeling, like if there is an office and there is some government, they are more into those genres that they think should be representing the country. So, and they are like high culture, elite culture. It's a classic music, jazz, world music, of course, because it has that ethno component. But the market is not working that way. It's working the other way around. What are the popular genres? Probably the biggest export of US is now the hip hop, because they are making, they are the number one. Or in Korea is a K-pop ruling over the Asia. So.
But that's one of the things that we struggled, well, didn't even struggle with the film industry, is that you have a cultural aspect which is typically handled by the film centers, which is looking at telling Serbian stories in a Serbian way using, but the film commission model is entirely economically driven, and it's not attached to the cultural ministry at all. They're attached to the ministries of economy. And so perhaps the bigger partner in this would actually be the economy ministry rather than the culture ministry.
But in that sense, it's difficult to...
Or both.
It's difficult to share from our experience. In that sense, maybe there is a difference in terms of evolution, because at the moment, the good thing that it is funded either 100%, either partly by the government, is that they don't expect any result. And that's good. They expect us to answer the question, who is programming exit? He is programming exit. Good luck. They don't need any other result. If the band, the artist is programmed at exit or not, it's the know-how of the company. It's the know-how of the agent. It's not the result of CNM. But I understand why, because there is the cake to share. I understand the question. But to me, the good thing about having this as a public institution is diversity, open door, answering questions. No more, the worst case scenario, unfortunately, because of the cake, is the rather Anglo-Saxon way of putting showcases, what they call so-called showcases. The showcases is like, it's a brand. So you just pay and you have the band perform in Canada, US, Australia. I remember that. They would say, Benjamin, give me the money, you will have the best slot in our festival, and you can put everybody you want. And I don't care about that. You want my money? All right, I give you 20,000 euros. I want you to program the band because I'm not Australian, I'm not Canadian. I want you, your ears. So to me, the model, and then afterwards they would say, the report. So how is the gross, the income you got from our event? And I'm smiling at that and make a joke. I understand why, because of the business model. But it's even insulting for the work of the booking agent. Of course it is not because of the slot. It's because the booking agent has been working 5 years to get the festival of the venue, and then possibly 5 years after, growing a little bit, more mature, more knowledge. Oh, you're still there. Oh, you should count then. Oh, okay, I will listen to you this time. What do you have to give me as a music? This is the knowledge of the people working for the music industry. It's not me. So if a government gives money and expects results, it's the wrong direction.
Yeah, but maybe we're looking at more like a 10-year plan.
Yeah, and in our case also they are not like just results-based, but activity-based. So they just give us some support, and in the contract there are several activities what are in their interest as well, like that the sector is internationally, for example, placed, and then the industry, we are receiving the industry knowledge and feedback where and when, and this is not controlled anymore. So they just like give some activities, what are their interest points, and then we work and we give the industry feedback again to them in order to receive either more or what should be the activities now, or maybe the research is now the most important and let's work together. But in Estonia also those discussions, what ministry should be involved is the question, because culture anyway, but then economic, like maybe foreign ministry, etc. Because Finland's model is actually also pretty good. They have like also 3 ministries supporting them, and then they have. And then also they do a lot of research, because you talked about different genres here as well. But they do a lot of research where to put the interest, maybe metal then in Finland's case right now. But we don't do that. And Finland actually, they are also based in that modeling, that very young like players, and then like advanced, and they just like level, and it isn't connected with the genre, and this is pretty good, because then you just help those who need this help, and etc. But obviously we didn't, in the beginning we didn't cover as well all the industry. Now during the crisis, and all the industry, just because we represented a collective voice, and that's why all the industry gathered. So basically, I can say we represent those 100 members now, and this is pretty diverse. So it's from different genres. But in the beginning, it was more alternative who needed this feedback and help and like wanted to do that. So maybe in your case, world music and what you mentioned before, yeah, brilliant.
And when you say, so the people that you then help, like the starting, and are they members? I mean, I'm interested in how you manage your resources.
Actually, we're there with a slight of a clash, because we are there for the we share the information with everybody in the industry, and we help everybody. But with the members, sometimes we can just offer, like, I don't know, better ways to get into those programs, or basically it's like they have different, because they are like the owners, they can like, they are mainly like also interested in our activities, like how they can help and like be part of the network, because we ourselves, in that case, we are also an exception. We are also a little network, so they can just advise where to go and what to do. So this is like their interest at one point, and secondly, yeah, we have some membership like advantages, let's say like that, and then we offer that or just ask them first or what we should do or go, and we are like membership driven, but as a development center and expert office and live music organization and everything we are just for the whole industry. So when we receive some information, it goes like to everybody, and programs are open to everybody, but we work like closely, or we receive feedback. That is the most important, actually, because we receive feedback from our members. We do the questionnaires and whatever. So
yeah, it's obviously 100% for a membership. Of course, the difference for us as Bureau Export is before it was paying. You have to pay for that. But that was because the status of an association, and because at those time it was kind of a barrier filtering, because the cake was so small, so that we required something like, for France was still a bit of money, like 300 euros per year. But that meant that if you're not ready to invest that for export, you will have difficulties within 3 years. But I found it really unfair, and fortunately now that we are CNM, this membership is free. And what is good is that it's not a matter only of closing the door if you're not export ready, it's just leaving this door, I'm talking about since the beginning, open, but also membership is monitoring. If you cannot deliver anything without monitoring, because then once again we come back, lack of data about the people you're supposed to help. So yes, membership, because we know what kind of company you are, what you're doing, what the artist you represent, etc. And appointment meeting next week, next year, within 2 years, and see how it grows. And then in the platform, you already have a picture of the country, of the sector. So membership is compulsory.
Yeah, or not if you are just created by some other company, or like music expert offices usually are, then just networks, yeah, then who are you monitoring? Because other development centers in Estonia, they have also those networks. We just call them memberships. And we have the fee as well, because it's like crucial, because they created us. Yeah.
I really wanted to open the floor for questions earlier, but the flow was just too powerful to interrupt on this side of the table. So, but yeah, questions. Araceli, you're first.
Thank you, everybody. As we are in this WOMBA, World Music Balkans, I was expecting something from these talks about world music export. I feel all the talks have been like very generic, and I feel that world music has some specific things that are the demonstration of the diversity of Europe. So I would like to know if you have any politics about exporting world music, because so far all I have listened has been about music in general.
We don't have extra strategy for world music, but it's like a part. Well, like for example, WOMAX, we always take delegations there, and that there is where we develop world music, for example, as well, in our scenery. And all of those world music players are the same music industry members, what we have talked about. World music, it's a part of those. And in Estonia, folk and world, and name it as you like, is a big part. That we have a lot of world members, managers or artists, or from that scenery. So yeah, we work with world music inside of that structures, because today was the goal of analyzing the structure in general, and world music is part of that structure. So in Estonia, I can say yes, we work a lot with world music, but in sense of exporting, as we brought the examples already, for example, international missions, and then we just there are export offices who are creating more maybe towards the world music, more missions, but we just use the event, for example, then, or WOMBA, or different kind of events to bring our, let's say, world music industry.
Yeah, and in the case of France and CNM, or just maybe not only the organization, but the way I work, we're really into activity and structure driven, not at all about genre. And that comes to Ben's first presentation about world music, which is so teaching and interesting. And also yesterday about to what extent is hidden or not music. To me, in my daily job, I don't know what is world music. What I know is how to promote artists that are not on Instagram. I would like to emphasize and help my organization knowing how to help artists that are not streamed, but not world music. I give an example. For example, at WOMEX some years ago, I had this company, very established company, presenting Leme on Showcase. Good success. Presenters, festival willing to program the artist, wonderful artist. The criteria to get the fundings in our program, you have to have 1,000 monthly listeners on one streaming platform and 1,000 subscribers on the social media. It doesn't fit to Leme. How can I support them with the success they got from WOMEX? It's not because Leme is world music, it's how you develop yourself. So in that sense, we should work better for artists that represent other way of developing. This is why I said let's forget about export, maybe talk about international development, I don't know. But to me, it's not about the music genre. If you can explain me what is jazz, please tell me. But I give this answer because to me, it doesn't mean that all the music genre should fit the same recipe of development with streaming or social media. It's a tool to develop. We saw that during COVID. But it's interesting also to focus on the music genre that can develop without that or in another way. And in that sense, we should talk more about that. But to me, it's not world music. Because I see that kind of development in jazz. I see that kind of development in classical music too. And however, Maya Kamati, Vincent Perani, I don't know, some others, Jupiter et Ocres, they're not world music. They just have a huge success live, streaming, social media, and even on movies. So to me, it's a way of how do you develop, and then maybe we'll be in peace with music genre, I think.
Just one little additional thing that we support, for example, we have this Live Music Estonia, we talked about those structures we have, but in this aim is to support then our world music organizations. It goes we are just an organization for them. For example, we have the Traditional Music Center, we have the Folk Music Big Festival, so how we can support them then as well, support the live industry and support artists to bring delegations, and so that is more our structure, but there are many and world music is inside of this structure. When I say festival or when I say organization or whatever, so we have we have collaborations.
Unlike France, countries with smaller and stranger languages like Estonia or Hungary, for example, because of the language barrier, they usually either export instrumental music or world music, because that's the only genre or the only territory where singing in a strange distant language is not a disadvantage but an advantage because it adds to the experience. So that's why world music is an emphasis usually on smaller countries' export policy or smaller languages rather than countries.
Yeah, it's really driven by the language aspect as well. It's super important, and it's always a part of the, usually, part of the export. And you said before very well as well, export office, what we are talking about, the broad picture and the whole industry structure here is the end point. You said it very well. This is the end point, what we are talking about, but all the genres are inside of this. Or it depends on the country, what genres they want to work with, or who are active key players. Because the industry and they have to want to work with with exports.
Yeah, but usually all export offices have a general strategy that kind of is genre neutral,
Exactly.
and everybody can take advantage of it. But they build inevitably on their kind of forte, traditional
Yes.
forte, and that's in more than one case it's world music related.
Can I make more one question? Okay, it's related to this. Do you, in your countries, is there any political trend or intention specifically to support differently the music of the legacy of your countries? I mean, it can make sense to export metal from Serbia, but metal there is in every country. But there is Serbian music that is only in Serbia, also the same with Estonia. So do you know if, or do you feel there is any specific interest from the politic to support your own unique music? Or any kind of genre is have to be supported the same? And this is all from my side.
I can say briefly about this. My experience for long years, as I said at the beginning, there is a, let's say, tendency that the government is choosing those musicians and bands and genres that they think are suitable to present the country. So that they are mostly like elite musicians, like classic music or world music, ethno music, basically. That's what they like. They feel that this could be, but that is more like cultural way of thinking. So they never support like minimal techno DJ, which maybe for Serbia is the most potent in case. Or I don't know, you know, like trance music. The major global labels are in Serbia. The labels, this is a really underground sub-genre, and nobody knows about it. Very few people, they are hiding. But the government will never support trance because they see it as a connected with some, let's say, alternative lifestyle. In that sense, I know that's not, but it's also depending of the character of the destination. For example, Berlin, it's not a country, but it's a big city. They are proud of that techno scene. Like they really see it as a DNA of the city, love parade and everything. A lot of clubs, and they're at the center of the techno music for globally, one of the global centers. And the city mayor and the night mayor, everybody are completely into it. So it's how you, as you said, there needs time. There is a need for association, advocacy work, and all that. I just want to add something more, maybe just because when we're talking about music export office, artists are asking us all the time these questions, very simple, like when it's going to happen. Okay, that's one thing. The second is what could we get in terms of funding? What are your funding schemes? Because we as Exit, we have a lot of experience working with various countries and export offices, but usually it's a kind of conflict because if we want to have some artists from, let's say, foreign country, we are usually heading for the major stars, which don't need basically any kind of support because they are already overpaid, over-expensive, and there is no budget for that kind of stuff. Then you have the upcoming bands. That's a niche where you can basically jump in as an organizer. So then we are doing these upcoming platforms, and we are our program team selecting who could be the next big, and then we're always trying to catch them while they are very at the beginning in terms of budget, that's budget-wise. So, and then they could apply for their music export office for the support, for the co-financing in terms of at least travel costs. And that is helpful, and that is like giving them a little bit competitive advantage. But we are talking about small fees and small, let's say, beginners or export-ready level. So my question would be like, what kind of funding schemes do you have for the, let's say, the beneficiaries, the artists? Because I would like to tell to our artists what could be expected if that happened, and how do you select them? What's the criteria? Is there any open call, like for subsidizing travel costs? Is that like a transparent process? Or because, as I said, there is two ways. First, we have some interesting band, and we advise them go to their export office and ask for support. Or there's another way. The usual embassies are approaching us or cultural centers, and they say, "Oh, we have this. We see it could work on your festival," and that could be from organizer, as you said. Like we know who to program, who will work, who will not. That could be tricky. We once had an offer, I think, from Japanese aid, global, I don't know, Japanese Europe structure, something like that. So they're thinking they are offering us one live band from Japan, and they said, we can basically help you to bring them, and but they are expensive, and you have to cover the half of the costs, and we'll give the half of the costs. And they said they usually gather on their open air concerts like 200,000 people, like the whole exit audience. And I said that's phenomenal, because in a similar thing happened with India. I had a conversation in the Indian embassy with the biggest Indian stars, one who has like millions of fans, and they were like, okay, we will support part of it, you will support part of it. But then I explained to them, in Japan they can attract 200,000, but in Serbia or Europe they can attract nobody. Maybe Japanese diaspora, which is not significant. All 12 of them can come. So that's that misunderstanding. So, okay, I now brought it, the thing, but please explain a little bit what kind of funding schemes are there, and what we can say to our artists if we ever found this vehicle, you can get benefits like A, B, C, D.
I can answer that really practically. There is an envelope which is shared, not really half-half, but shared between artists with a lot, let's say, a success and emerging artists. So those who have a success can apply for more money, but the application is for a year work, and the year work combines live, promotion, recording, publishing, etc. The emerging artist can be just a concert, because this is your question. And the criteria, well, again, my example is not good to compare with Serbia in particular, especially because of diversity, is that it is not at all the passport, the nationality, the language of expression, and the residency of the artist. It's the production, like in the movies. We support the French companies. So the criteria is that it can be an artist from Serbia, living in Serbia, but produced in France. It doesn't really happen, but it could be. And what the criteria is the one I said, like 1,000 monthly listeners on the streaming platform, 1,000 subscribers on the social media for pop, rock, electro, hip hop, etc., whatever the genre. And again, luckily or not, we don't look at genre, not at all. What is very important is that metal from Brittany is metal from Brittany. We need this metal from Brittany, or we need also the language of Britain, or we need also rap, hip hop from Marseille. We don't need Charles Navour anymore, or we need him from our heart. And we need also francophonie to support, but just together with the language, together with the other French-speaking institution. But as a business development, it's not about that. It's about who will invest and who, in case it's a success, will continue the success. So so we can refund the flights, we can refund the hotel, we can refund a small fee, But the thing is that we separate the success from the emerging, because the fact is that the success never wants to get lower condition abroad. If you are a success with weddings or with your own markets or the radio, why would you export? Because you get more money where you are. So usually we focus on the emerging ones who are really inclined to do efforts, to ask for very, 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 very small fee and get to the scene. So, and it's always 50% of what it represents. So they have to invest. The funding cannot work if without the, I'm so bad, I'm too tired. The commission with professionals, booking agents, managers, artists, record label, choose the applications 6 times a year or 5 times a year, and they vote for those who, it can happen without the subsidy. It will just be really difficult, but it will happen. For the project without the subsidy doesn't happen, they will not help. But luckily enough, it's because there are other organizations doing that. There are a lot of tours which are with the French diplomacy abroad, for example, where they can support more than that. We cannot because of the cake, because of the size of the cake. So it means that for a concert, they will need to pay 50% of what it represents to go there, and they can ask maximum for 50%. So they have to have very good reason, and the good reason that are in the application are the contacts will be made over there. Are you going with a booking agent or manager? No. Okay, so no. What are you going to achieve? Why do you want to go there in terms of business?
Yeah, and in our case, it's really simple because we don't have those funds. So like, because we have those funds, but in a very like small, like we have, but couple of. So I can bring you one example already, like also how to just support those travels, for example. So we had also export fund, and hopefully it's ongoing. And we created this fund with a collective society, so with the authors union actually, who wanted to give the money back to the industry. So this logic, if they understand this logic, it's great. For example, we had a very small fund, but it was like for artists who are already chosen for showcases, and for professionals who wants to visit a conference, professional conference. So it was like artists and professionals fund. So, and then we covered with a flat rate a bit of travel costs and saying, so it was a very nice initiative. Otherwise, how is politics made? So that is a very different question, what was raised here as well, because obviously our ministry has different funds, and for example, Estonian culture abroad. But you have to have like it can't be smaller than €5,000 project. So small artists or just emerging artists, like starting artists, they don't go there and they can't access this fund. So it's just for already bigger artists, but the fund it doesn't contain a lot of money. So Estonian Culture Abroad, and then we have an initiative. Also, what is run by Estonian Ministry of Culture is this Culture Endowment Committee, and that is a very nice system because from the alcohol taxes and from the cigarette taxes and casino taxes, they are going inside the cultural pot. So we use the taxes of the alcohol, cigarettes, and gaming, and then it goes to the culture. But how to access this committee? For example, it was very driven. How is politics made? Classical, jazz, folk. Obviously, those are the genres represented by politicians usually, or how it's support. But now we want to support more. Our work is to just to also throw attention to other export-ready genres or key players. Now I'm bringing the genres on the table, but we try to be neutral here, but still. But this committee was run mostly by classical professionals sitting there. So now the committee, and this is depending on political situation in your country, basically. So now I'm sitting in this committee as well, and I can bring to the table like what applications run through that committee. It isn't a lot of money, but still, they can ask also for traveling there, and etc. But obviously, we as an export office, we need to create also more funds, and this export fund was an excellent example of how to collaborate with collective society and just to create something because we lack of export funds we should have more, and inside of the ministry as well, because we are doing the lobby part. If they are collaborating more with us, and like, but it's the thing of the financial ministry already. If they could see the profit of the culture aspect and etc. So it's really like, yeah.
Sorry,
Just
Benjamin. We're in extra time already,
Oh, sorry.
and soon penalties are coming.
Finally.
So a few quick questions, quick answers. Format. Bojan, if you remember your question from half an hour ago, still.
I will try to be brief. I see that it's quite difficult to get an export office in Serbia because, first of all, there is no political will for sure, which Ben said was the keynote. I mean, world music is not supported by the government. That's true. I will disagree with Ivan that world music is supported and the artists are going abroad with the support. It's not the case. And even now you have the ministry which is late for 2 months for the results, for the calls like you are inside and you don't get the budget. I agree with you that the key holders and the key people in the music industry should get together and then push the politics to do it. But then we don't have it, so that's another reason. But I don't see it from the behavior of the political stakeholders. They don't care about the world music. But on the other side, we have Exit Festival, which says there is no interest for world music locally, so we don't have the stage. Now we have the WOMBA without the money from the Ministry of Culture or government support, apart from general money from Exit, there is European money. So why then the world music is really important? It is exportable, I agree completely. Your idea that it's electronic music, I will add jazz for sure, because this is the policy of the government and the local governments to have jazz as the most important beside the classical music. But I don't see how we can do it without the talks between the key people in this music. There are other people who are much in front of the Exit thinking about this. And how many bands, world music bands, have you exported to the festivals you did around in the region? That's my question, because I think that Exit alone cannot do it. You have to do it with somebody else, and also to ask people that are doing things. I mean, the information about the bands or the world music are existing already. The database is online, and then we are speaking about creating database. And I will just disagree that it should be only 2 genres. It has to be a little bit more wider, like take the care of Estonia, which is closer to our example than French, which is existing for ages.
If this is a question for me, I'm then too tired because I'm not sure what's the question, basically. But I get one thing: how many bands that we export. Are there were any of the world music, let's say, in that group? There were some, but that's not important in this case. The thing is that we are doing that, let's say, voluntarily. We are doing that as our need to contribute to the scene. So, and when you're doing anything voluntarily, there is a limit of success in it, because we did we helped many bands, from not just mostly electronic, live music, rock bands. Some of them were also world music. We helped Satori to produce this Vinci album recently. Tomorrow you can hear it 2 a.m. at Dance Arena. So he's combining electronic with Balkan world music. So it's, but the thing is that is all that we did is basically in 2 boxes. Let's say our love to the music and sort of social responsibility, as this conference and this project, because the markedly looking, this whole thing is not something we are looking to get, let's say, many tickets or profit from it. But we see it as our responsibility to help the potent scene. What is needed in order to get that to the next level is to have some structure with few people, 1, 2, 3, 5, with some budget, who are working all the time on it, combining with the Serbian World Music Association, the database that you have and everything. That's the next thing, because this is like, what's the name of the English? Stihia, let's say. What's the translation of the Stihia approach, or what they say in our basketball national team strategy? It's organized anarchy. So we are in that box. So we need another step. We need another step. First, to get out of this scarcity mindset that you are against me, I am against you. We are not competing. We want to support each other, and there is a space for everybody. That's number one, because without that we cannot get to the number one. Because there is always this issue, if you're trying to do something, instead that your fellow colleagues from the sector support you, they say, why are you doing this? They're sort of, I would say, soft attacks in some points. That's also happened. So then we lose enthusiasm because you're trying to do something good, and then somebody's giving you like hard times for it. So there are a lot of, let's say, irrational things going on, but nevertheless, we need, from my experience, I talked to Ben yesterday, there are a few, let's say, two approaches. One of them is anarchy, like we are always doing, organized anarchy. Everybody's doing something with more and less luck. There are some, I was surprised yesterday was one Serbian DJ, female DJ on the main stage, and I was not aware how huge she is. She's like big in Asia. She has almost 1.6 million followers on Instagram, if you are counting that as that. So she is really big and done by itself. Nobody helped her. So that's one approach, everybody from itself, how we usually function. Everybody is trying to get something. And there is another thing, that if you're doing some systematic vehicle or mechanism which could change reality with a social impact. European cultural capital or youth capital are those structures that we kind of initiated for Novi Sad. And they really, with all more or less success, achieved something. But when you launch idea, it was like one people or two guys launching idea. That's for the beginning. And then at the end, this year you have like 100 people working full time, plus hundreds of partners doing some programs, doing some initiatives. The city is changing. The real estate prices are going up. The number of tourists are on record. So for my experience in this age, I was always for this systematic approach with the strategy, with the vision, with the budget, with the political will. That's how we're going to really make a real impact. That's why we advocated for this. Everything else is improvisation.
Maybe one comment?
Yeah.
One comment quickly, if that can help. The thing I was joking to before, as always, as I said, that we don't need results. Of course, we don't need to provide any results in the term of the meeting we do, but the government asks us for results in the term of diversity. So the government wants results in the term that people are happy and more than happy, that we represent the whole sector. So the pressure is to be representative. It's not necessarily to have slots, it's that representative. And it's easier for the recording industry because you have numbers, sales, streaming. But for the live, it's very difficult. It took 2 years in France that the whole sector agrees on a particular success reporting about live. 2 years with everybody, Live Nation, indies, festivals, venues, etc. What is a success export? Is it playing at Coachella once? Or is it playing all the bars in the UK? Or is it having your synchronization on Apple Music? So no, this is no live, but just live concerts. And 2 years after, the whole sector, which is a pressure for the platform, agreed that they give points, marks, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it gathers a bit of the biggest festivals in the world, plus tours with 5 or 10 dates, etc. They just discussed together and agreed on marks, and when they say, okay, this is a success, because it combines big tours, long tours, big events, small events. So the government was happy not because we could say these artists are successful. The government was happy because we could say the whole music sector in the country is happy with the platform.
Thank you. Any other question?
Maybe just a comment.
Yeah. Okay, Diane.
Not a comment.
No. Diane, your
Then
comment.
I would make just a short comment that different standpoints about where we are now, and we are talking about the industry. And I want to say that within the world music industry in Serbia, we are having good fun and communicating and working together and trying to act as one, at least half a dozen of festivals all the time. So we sometimes do things like apply to the government minister, cultural minister funds to gain some money for the festivals. It was separately festival by festival for many, many years, and no music festival got any money ever. And then we applied together now, going like we are applying together and presenting world music scene as one. And 4 festivals applied together this year. Together we organized so far 56 festivals with these 4 organizations. And then we got the answer that, oh no, let's see how it works, this cooperation, and we'll see if we are going to finance you sometime. So I want to say that within the industry, we are working together, communicating, trying, giving ideas, but we really need support. So an umbrella organization which would work for this as, you know, making it stronger, I think it would be good. It is the question how it should be set up and what it should be do. So that's it. Yeah, thank you.
I just comment like this WOMBA project, this is an excellent platform right now created to give it a start, and this like this lobbying is extremely tiring, but if you could manage the next step, what Ivan explained, and if you do the next step, and then ministry can initiate also or show bigger interest and invite you to the table, and you can start really lobbying and you can create something together. Yeah, this would be, yeah, I think, but I think this is a good start, having this WOMBA platform already to give more, and then you start growing and just you can discuss about different funds and how to access those funds, and this is, yeah, next level.
Thank you very much for coming, and especially thank you for the very lively discussion here at the table. And see you tonight.